Hi, I'm Solomommy, and today I want to talk about something that comes up a lot in our house, and honestly, it makes me laugh now that I understand it a little better. Autistic logic. Because autistic logic isn't just logic, it's literal. And if you don't realize that, it can lead to some very confusing moments. Before I share these stories, there's something important to know. My spouse's autism diagnosis didn't come until recently. So a lot of these moments, when they were happening, weren't understandable at the time. They just felt awkward or confusing, or like something had gone wrong socially. Looking back now with more understanding, these moments make a lot more sense, and some of them are even funny. So let me start with my spouse. When they first moved here, they were still learning the local language. And by language, I mean those regional phrases that everyone assumes you already know. So one day, someone asked them, "Do you want to go to Skyline for a three-way?" Now, if you live here, you know that means chili, spaghetti, and cheese. But my spouse didn't know that yet. They did know what the phrase usually means. So they looked at me very slowly, very carefully, like, is this a conversation we're having? Everyone else was talking about dinner. My spouse was trying to figure out how we got here. That wasn't confusion. That was literal processing without cultural footnotes. Another moment from their life that made a lot more sense later on too. Years ago, they were working at an ice cream counter. A customer walked up and said, "I'd like 2 dips of ice cream." And my spouse just stood there, staring. Not because they were rude, not because they didn't want to help, but because the instructions were incomplete. The customer didn't say what flavor. They didn't say cup or cone. So my spouse had no next step. At that time, it wasn't funny. The customer was confused, and I was working with them and had to step in and fix the situation. It felt awkward. But now, knowing what we know, it makes perfect sense. Autistic logic doesn't guess. It doesn't assume. It waits for all the information. 2 dips isn't an order. It's a partial sentence. So the system stalled. That wasn't lack of intelligence, that was precision. And then there's Solomon. Because the same kind of logic shows up with him too. One day I slipped up and used a phrase that was very popular in the early 90s. And I jokingly said, "Bite me." And yes, you can guess what happened next. He bit me. Not aggressively, not angrily, just instructions followed. Because to him, that wasn't sarcasm. That was a request. And that one, that's entirely on me. The thing about the literal processing is autistic brains don't automatically translate tone, sarcasm, or cultural shortcuts. They hear what you say, not what you meant. So when things go sideways, it's usually not because logic failed, it's because language wasn't clear. Looking back, none of those moments feel embarrassing anymore. They feel understandable. And honestly, we can even laugh at a few of the awkward oops moments because autistic logic was never wrong. It was just literal. And once you understand those moments, stop feeling frustrated and start feeling funny. So you've ever had a moment where words were taken exactly as they were spoken, or a time when logical communication went hilariously sideways? I'd love to hear it. Share your funny logic or communication oopsies in the comments so we can laugh together, because sometimes understanding comes first and the laughter follows right behind it. So thank you for listening to our stories today.